And unfortunately, we are on a very tight schedule. The studio is being loaned to us through Allison West, who is my teacher. There is a class happening at 6:45. And I am responsible for making sure that everything is done as it need be. So I'm just going to ask for your cooperation in that. I'd like to introduce Hector Marcel from the Three Jewels, and also the leader and founder of 108lives.org, which is a volunteer organization, which I participated in Nepal, which was extraordinary, and Ron Duran. And I'm very thankful to have them in my life.
Thank you so much to all the people who have spoken so far and said some magnificent truth. And thank you for doing something like this with a beautiful, sunny, uninterrupted, peaceful Sunday afternoon in Manhattan with all the leisure and fortune we share as lucky human beings who can shower and eat and have the luxury to come to a space and talk about peace. Deeply grateful, because it's a rare thing to want to do with your precious moments, especially if you're in crazy New York and working all the time. So I want to acknowledge that seed, that impulse that brought you here for whatever reason will grow, and hopefully we're germinating and fertilizing it with the thoughts and discussions and the moments of peace we have between us. Initially, when we talked about putting something together, thank you, Jenna, thank you, Jane. I thought, I'm not a Palestinian, I'm not a Jewish person, I'm not an Israeli, I'm not an Arab, I don't have a view on these things. I just saw images on images of creatures hurling things at each other and killing each other. And this is just another example of what has happened on this planet for a long time. We kill each other. And then I thought, well, I'm part of that group. No, I'm not an Israeli, I'm not a Palestinian, I'm not Jewish, I'm not Arab. I'm human. And human throughout time, certain humans throughout time have killed each other. Has tried to create peace from hurt. And then I returned back to my teacher and my teachers, and all of them, without exception, said, hate gets more hate, peace gets peace. I thought, I can't do something about it, I should just have listened. So I'm here to try to do something about it, to connect with you as best as I can in a Tibetan Buddhist lineage of meditation that I've learned, and try to put a modern context onto that. I'm going to share a first half of a meditation and run in place of Jenna. We'll do the second part of the meditation. And I want to tell you about the meditation first before we do it. The way that I've learned this philosophy teaches me that there is nothing in this world that I don't see, feel, taste, touch that is not me. There is no war that is not me. But I didn't throw the rockets, and I didn't kill the babies, and I didn't do those things. But I am experiencing them in my nature, and I'm experiencing them in my eyesight, and it's getting closer, and I better do something about it with the right view, to a correct view, versus the impulse, which is to reject and ignore and push back or hurt. So in this meditation, I'd like to do something that might not seem to the normal eye as the most practical thing to do with the conflict in our world. And the conflict in the Middle East is just an example of so much conflict in our world. Conflict in Africa, conflict in Europe, conflict in the United States. It's what we do as humans. We think we're separate, and so some are more separate than others, and I want to reject the things I don't like, and I like to collect the things I like, and in doing that, we kill each other. So I'd like to look at that straight in the face and apply the wisdom or the knowledge from traditions throughout human endeavor. Those beings who have looked deeply and found this pool of peace, this place of infinite potential, the nature where everything comes from. And people name it. They call it God, they call it emptiness, they call it the source, they call it the universe. We call it all sorts of things. But truth is truth. And if there is that pool, that essence of where it is, then your conflict is my conflict. And your hurt is my hurt. As my love is your love, and your love is my love. So I want to, first of all, look at any conflicts we have inside of us, the tiniest little impulses of conflicts that we've been holding on and dragging like balls and chains throughout our adult lives. However best you can imagine these things, the time you swore to your mum, the time you pushed your brother over, the time you punched your best friend in the face, the time you wanted to eat the cookie in front of the other lady who wanted the same cookie. I did the cheese. Yeah, so sorry for those that do. But really, we are in conflict, you know. Humans are propelled in this essence, this thing called life on planet Earth, and we see conflict. And then ignorance tells us to resolve the conflict, we punch or push away or take. And so we carry those karmas, those seeds of that action of mind and body inside of us, physically inside of us. In our mind we carry that, and it's multiplying and growing. And so we have like a web behind us, dragging from this life and beyond infinite numbers of little dark seeds and little beautiful white seeds and a whole bunch of shades of grey in between. The meditation, a short meditation I'd like you to do, if you're willing, is to we'll center ourselves through breathing and then try and imagine those seeds that we've been holding on to, that anger, and just find a space to forgive or break through 1 or 2 or 5 of them, and then see a chain reaction of them, the darkness disappearing. And then to see the luminosity and the goodness we have done in all the white seeds, if you like. And then push that forward into the next part, which will be that meditation. I just took 7 minutes out of the 10-minute meditation. 3 minutes of meditation. Sorry for talking so much. So I invite you to take a comfortably seated position. There's no right or wrong way. It's just where you can let go of the physicality of being and just begin to focus the attention of your mind in the space around you, aware of the sounds, the temperature, the beings around you. And gradually bring your awareness to the breath, beautifully entering and exiting the nostrils, naturally without your pushing. Just observe as if it's the very first time you see breath. You feel air entering your body and feeling that exit your body. Wherever you feel this, at your chest, at the nostrils, through the back of the throat, just bring your awareness to it. This means pressing your mind tightly on the breath and follow it. If your mind gets distracted, it's what the mind is supposed to do, so just let it get distracted and come back to the breath. Now I'd like you to imagine in front of you a slight breeze coming towards you, a tiny movement of air. It's a secret kind of air. It's something that unmantles your history behind you. With that breeze you uncover everything that you've done in your past begins to light up. And you see some dark moments of hate and rejection and anger and frustration. Maybe words you've spoken to another in ignorance. Maybe out of an impulse you hurt someone. If you had clarity of mind now, you would have done it differently. And behind you, this breeze reveals millions of tiny moments of beautiful goodnesses. Moments where you forgot yourself for a second and helped another. Moments where you loved beyond yourself and took care of others around you as if they were yourself. There is joy in those seeds. There is conflict in other seeds. We can shake some of them off now. So begin by visualizing the breeze in front of you getting stronger and stronger. It's an invisible breeze that clears obstacles. There's a wisdom in the air. And as you visualize materially your mental movements, you see cracks beginning to appear in one or two of the dark seeds that you have planted through confronting conflict with conflict. So I ask you now to just pick one moment of conflict you've had in the recent past, one seed in that vast connection of seeds. This will be our experiment. It should be something recent. Maybe you hurt somebody. Maybe you didn't want to talk to somebody. Maybe you hung up the phone on somebody. Maybe you judged somebody in the train. Maybe you said a word sarcastically. Whatever it is, this conflict and acting with ignorance pushes away that conflict with conflict. Imagine that as a seed behind you, connected to all the other dark seeds. And now, with a state of mind of peace that understands what we've been talking about today, that if the world really comes from you engaging with the world mindfully, engage with your memory of that moment mindfully. Wish peace where you had conflict. And imagine the breeze in front of you like a hurricane beginning to peel away the darkness surrounding the essence of those seeds. Cracking at the conflict. Wishing it was gone for good and not creating more cause for more of the same. Practically, this might mean you're sorry. Practically, this might feel like a surrender in front of an enemy. A surrender with wisdom that sees the enemy as a reflection of me. And as you feel this, you should feel a release of the tension connected with that action. And the breeze gets stronger and begins to push that capacity to other moments of your past where you can remove yourself from conflict. And in this part, you can visualize people you had problems with before and look at their faces as a mirror of yourself and find something to love in them. Find some goodness in them, and if nothing else, find common ground. We are human. We have the capacity to hurt. We are human. We have the capacity to love. When you feel that love, wish it upon every person that you've interacted with conflict or without, that they might have the same impulse to love instantly.
So soon I will introduce another type of meditation, but before that I want to say one small thing about myself and how I personally relate to this event and the idea that came to me while I was listening to why I think it was stayed here. So my name is Ran and I spent about 6 years in Asia. I was a Buddhist monk and I was doing a lot of spiritual work, and when I came back to Israel, I'm Israeli, I thought there must be similar things to what I saw there in Judaism and in the Bible, because the Bible is the source also of Islam, Christianity, and unless it is there in the right way, there is no hope. And of course I found a lot of things, there are a lot of kind of things that are kind of the one who rise to kill you, to kill you first and stuff like that. But there are a lot of things that have to do on love, and one of the things that I really liked was a sentence from the pasuk that say, I will say it in Hebrew and then I translate it. It says, Mina merchav karati ya, Mina mitzar karati ya, and then you go merchav ya. Which means it's King David calling to God. He says, from the narrowness, I'm calling you God, answer me in the vastness. And the idea here was that it was God, when I have anger, which means I'm narrow, I want to destroy, I want to do something like that, God will not answer me by killing all my enemy, but He will answer me by expanding my consciousness. He will take us, He will take me into the place, because as it was said before, and we're quoting Albert Einstein, that problems cannot be solved at the level that we are created. God will expand my mind. This was what King David was really praying for. I have a lack of money. It's not about being a millionaire, it's about understanding and appreciating how much I have. I have anger. It's not about how I destroy everybody else who are not just like me, but how I learn to truly love and see the brotherhood between men, basically. And there is a rabbi I really appreciate in Israel. His name is Rabbi Ohad Ezrahi, and once he took a quote from Hasidic, which is very much connected also to what I'm going to do in a minute from now. And he quotes something from Hasidic which says, "Lehamtik et hara b'shorsho," which means how do you do with evenness? And he says you want to sweeten evenness in the root of evilness. And how that can be done? And what he referred in that case, that evenness at its source is actually goodness, turned bad. Which means even if you take the most horrible thing, this is what he said, this rabbi, he said that if you even take something like a father who do something to his daughter, or something like that, the root of what he wanted to do, not to legitimize anything like that, but just to understand where the core is, he was looking for innocence, he was looking for connecting something pure. He did it in a way which was so wrong, actually broken innocence, actually create separation, destroy connection that was supposed to be naturally. But the root was good, the root of everything we do is good. The way we translate it into action, when it has ignorance coating it, it's what created harm in the world. So going back into the source, this is the most important thing. And now we're going to do show you. Now I'm going to the meditation. It's called Metta. It's loving kind meditation, it's very old meditation, one of the oldest, 2,500 years old. The Buddha was teaching it, and it's supposed to take away all obstacles and basically with love expand consciousness. This is the idea. And it's also called one of the heavenly abode, which means it's where we want our mind to go all the time. If our mind is already all the time kind of wet by that type of meditation, we are already in heaven. We don't need to die or something for that. So I will do it now. We'll do it together, hopefully. I do some things that we kind of use our imagination. So I'm kind of improvising on the traditional form with something come from NLP. So I hope you will like it. And so let's close our eyes and take a big breath, deep, and let's think for a second. If love would have a color for us, what color would it have for us? The first thing that comes to our mind, let's just think about what would be the color of love for us now. And if love would be like a material thing, it would have a texture, What texture does love gonna have? Just try to imagine. The first thing that comes to your mind, this is how your mind represents it. And if love will have a place in your body, what will be the place in your body where love is? And I want you to start breathing to that area in your body. Imagine every breath is like sending energy to that place. And you create like a sphere of energy, the color of love, the texture of love. With every breath you become bigger, more vibrant, more alive, more powerful. And you expand it with every breath. You make it bigger and bigger. Till you become big enough to go beyond the limits of your physical body. Till you become big enough to surround you like a sphere of protection, a sphere of love. And the first person you want to send love to is ourselves. The rest of the world is just projection of our inner world. So I want us to create, let's create the image of ourselves in its most innocent, pure form. The self that is before all the social conditioning, the self which is like the inner child. And let's see ourselves in our purest form in front of us. This child, which is a representation of ourselves, had gone through so much in this life. So let's say to him these sentences. I allow you to be imperfect. I allow you to make mistakes. I allow you to be a learner in life. I allow you to be just who you are. We can send a beam of love energy to our inner child. Coat him through with love. See how we become happy. And you can tell him, if I harm you by thought, speech, or action, if I was not kind to you, may you be able to forgive me. If you harmed me in any way, may I be able to forgive you. And see how your inner child will have nourished, at peace, healed. And we can allow this inner child to integrate back into us. And now we can take a person we love, a person we have very close and loving relationship to, and put him in front of us. Let's see him live. If it's hard for us to visualize, we can also just feel the presence. And tell to that person we love, I allow you to be imperfect. I allow you to make mistakes. I allow you to be a learner in life. I allow you to be just who you are. If I harmed you by thought, speech, or action, may you be able to forgive me. If you hurt me by thought, speech, or action, may I be able to forgive you. Let's send light from the place of love to him. Surrounding him is our sphere of love. Seeing how he is happy now. we can let him disappear, and in his place, let's take a person with whom we have neutral relation. We don't have strong emotion to connect with him. Neither love or hate. It can be just anybody that you occasionally meet. So let's pick somebody like that. Look at his eyes or her eyes and tell that person, I allow you to be imperfect. I allow you to make mistakes. I allow you to be a learner in life. I allow you to be just who you are. We can recall that that person, doesn't matter who it is, inside there is a child that wants love, that doesn't want to feel suffering, just like us. We can send beam of love to that person from the place of love in our body, coat him with that sphere of love. See him happy. If I harmed you, you can say to him, by thought, speech or action, may you be able to forgive me. If you harmed me by thought, speech or action, may I be able to truly forgive you. See how happy that person is now. Feel the change in his presence, in his breath, his energy. Once you coat him with it, sphere of light. And now we can allow him to fade. And we now want to do the most important thing. I want you to choose a person you have a problem with. It can be one single person. It can be what you call the enemy, a group of people. Somebody or a group with him or whom you have trouble with. Somebody who hurt you, somebody who upset you, somebody you were educated to hate maybe. Somebody that you have true difficulty with. And let's see that person or group in front of us. Let's see the presence of that person and tell him or her or them, I allow you to be imperfect. I allow you to be a learner in life. I allow you to make mistakes. I allow you to be just who you are. Even though you might act in the past in harmful, painful ways to me, I know that in your core there is an innocent child, just like in my core, who wants love, who wants happiness. You might have very ignorant strategies to attain that, but I know that this is who you are in your core, and I love you for that. We can quote that person with a beam sending from our center of love, with the energy of love. See a sphere of love around him or her or them. See how that person become happy, smiling, content, at peace, and happy, or her. If I harm you by thought, speech, or action, may you be able to forgive me. If you harmed me by thought, speech, or action, may I be able to truly, honestly forgive you. See how that person is truly happy. How all the conflicts are reconciled. How a new type of bonding is formed. How both you and that other person have come to realize high level of connection, of unity, of sharing. And you can allow that person, the image of that person, to disappear. And that energy of love that we now share can be expanded now. We can expand that energy of love from the center of love in our body to all the people around here, and to all the people in New York, which is a micro world that has everything, and all the people in the US. Just expanding wherever this light, beam of light touch, immediately is filled with love. To all the people in the world, and especially in Israel, Palestine, the Middle East. And we can take it even further to all sentient beings on this earth, because we are not the only one to suffer. There are animals, trees, the Buddhists say even astral creatures that you cannot see with our physical eyes. So that all beings on this planet will be happy. May they be really happy. May they really experience love. May they find peace. And we can send this light to the infinite. May all beings, whoever they are, may they be happy. Whoever they are, these are sentient beings. They are just like us. They want to be happy. They don't want to suffer. May all beings find their true happiness. May all beings be free from suffering. Slowly, we can contract the light again from the infinite to planet Earth, Israel, Middle East, the world, the US, New York City, this room, and back into our center, into our heart, or wherever that center of love for us exists. Before we open the eyes, let's just reassess the whole process that we've gone through, so we can recall it whenever we need it. It can be done whenever there is a situation of conflict, or wherever we feel we are in a mind of contraction. So just see that you recall the whole process, and that we do. You can open the eyes. Thank you.
for the new people there, if you want to come over here.
Come on in, there's some photos of you, make yourself at home. So now we have Emily as a nice speaker for my legislative experience. It's changed my life in so many ways. And it's here to speak a bit on the neuroscience of compassion. So basically to find out what we just did and how that affects our brains. It'll be a brief presentation, but I think it'll blow your mind. Take care.
Yeah, I'm ready to blow your mind. So it's ready. How many people here while we're setting up the mic? Ah, thank you. Hello. Hello. How many of you guys have a daily meditation practice in here? Right on. So I am here to speak on the neuroscience of compassion. And I think it was beautifully timed because we just did this meditation and now we can talk about what's happening in the brain when we meditate. So I just want to say a big thank you to Jamie and to Jenna. It's Jenna, right? Jenna, we just met today. But thank you guys for organizing this. Not only for creating the event itself, but also the way that you created it, I think was done beautifully. If you notice that this event is called Unite for Peace. It's not called the War Against War. Right? We can't move away from a negative. We have to move towards a positive. And so today we're here to unite for peace. You can only move towards the thing that you want to go to. I think it's kind of funny that we have the war on drugs and the war on terror, because all we're doing there is pouring our attention on these things that we don't want to grow. And as I'm sure you guys all know, what you put your attention on grows. So what we're here to do today is to put our attention on peace, which thank you guys so much for leading us through that. That was really beautiful. So the neuroscience of compassion. Neuroscience is quite simply the study of the brain, and compassion is your ability to empathize or have sympathetic feelings with the misfortune of others. When we meditate, we start to strengthen the piece of our brain that identifies with other, and that's really what I want to talk about today. But first, I'll do a quick little Cliff's Notes between the right and left hemispheres of the brain. So right brain is the thing that's in charge of unity, right now, peace, connectedness, creative problem solving, colors, music, connectedness, all these things are right brain activities. And our left brain is the piece of us that is in charge of the past and the future, language, analytical thought, critical thought, math, balancing our checkbooks. All really important activities, but for most of us, we've been taking our left brain to the gym for decades. We've been thinking and taking action and achieving and making money so that we can be happy in the future. Think, take action, achieve, make money so we can be happy in the future. And our left brain has gotten very, very strong. And our poor little right brain has atrophied, right? The piece of us that's in charge of the right now, the piece of us that's in charge of, Eckhart Tolle is beautiful, the power of now, present moment awareness, where our bliss and fulfillment hangs out. So when we meditate, we start to take our right brain to the gym. And I had the good fortune of giving a talk at Google last week called Why Meditation is the New Caffeine. And as I was, I thought it was a good title too. Well, I'll talk about that another time because I have limited time today. But as I was beefing up my neuroscience and sort of understanding on a molecular level what caffeine does to the brain, I learned something new. And that night I went to the movies with a person. And as I was sharing my new discoveries with said person, we started talking about the conflict in the Middle East. And he's like, yeah, are you trying to say that if you just if everyone in the Middle East, if all the Israelis and the Palestinians would just meditate, then everything would be much more peaceful? And he was sort of brushing me off as a ding-dong former pageant girl, which I am. Yes, this person is my fiance. But I stopped, and I took a minute, and I thought about it, and I looked at him, and I said, yes, I 100% believe if we could get more Israelis and more Palestinians and more people around the world that are engaged in conflict to start a practice where they get to engage with their right brain and they start to up-level their state of consciousness, I 100% believe that there would in fact be less conflict on the planet. And here's why. You guys ready for the neuroscience part of the story? So humans are born with a very strong me center of the brain. Now that me center is called the ventromedial prefrontal cortex. Let's say that again. The ventromedial prefrontal cortex. It's the me center of our brain, and we're born with it quite strong. Also, the connection between that me center and the fear center is very strong, sort of by nature. And the reason that we're born like this is because of the fight or flight stress reaction. We needed it to survive when our demands were predatory attacks. But the thing is, you guys, our demands are no longer predatory attacks. So we don't need the me center and the fear center to be so tightly knit and so connected. So if we want to evolve beyond this instinctual, sort of animalistic fight or flight reaction to stress, then we have to start to consciously train our brains, which is what we just did so beautifully. And here's the good news. As we start to meditate, 2 things happen. 1, 3 things happen. A million things happen, let's be serious, but I'm going to talk about 3 of them. One of them is that we start to take our right brain to the gym. We start to wake up that present moment awareness. We start to be able to access that bliss and fulfillment in the only place that it resides, which is inside of us. We also strengthen our dorsomedial prefrontal cortex. Now, the dorsomedial prefrontal cortex is the piece of your brain that is responsible for identifying with those that we perceive as separate. Those people that we perceive as different from ourselves. And as you guys all know, in order to have conflict, there has to be an us and a them. There has to be a good guy and a bad guy if you're going to engage in conflict. So as we start to meditate, we strengthen this dorsomedial prefrontal cortex, the other center of the brain. And we start to break down the connection between the fear center and the me center. So what am I actually saying here? It's a lot of words, a lot of neuroscience words. I'm saying that the more you meditate every single day, which can feel quite selfish, right? It can feel like kind of a waste of time. There's all these problems, there's all this war, there's all this action that needs to be taken, which is absolutely true. But I'm going to make the hypothesis that you meditating is the least selfish thing that you could do. Because as you up-level yourself, you up-level the collective. And as we heal the collective, we start to dissolve, we start to put our attention on the things that we want to grow. So as we meditate, we strengthen this dorsomedial prefrontal cortex, the piece of our brain that sympathizes with other. And we also start to strengthen that piece, the other part of the brain, with the part of our brain that is in charge of feelings. Which quite literally means that if you start to see someone else in pain, you will feel their pain. And as you guys so beautifully led us through, as you start to see other people experiencing love and joy, you will start to feel their love and their joy. According to the Vedas, there's only one thing and we're all it. And that one thing is consciousness. So as we hurt other people, we do hurt ourselves. And as we help other people, we help ourselves. And as we start to meditate, we create a very real biological, neuroscientific change in the brain that allows you to quite effortlessly, quite elegantly, quite enjoyably identify with others and start to see this conflict that is happening not as them, not as someone else's problem, but as a part of our extended self. So I'll leave you with this. The wise words of Elle Woods, the character played by Reese Witherspoon in Legally Blonde. She was talking about exercise, right? She's like, if you exercise every day, you get happy, and happy people don't kill people. But if you meditate every day, you're going to be happier, and happy people don't kill people. The end.
Thank you so much, Emily.
My pleasure. Awesome. So now, first of all, I wanted to go ahead and introduce one of the most amazing people who has really created this event in so many ways. I can't pronounce her last name, but Jenna.
Yeah.
How do you say your last name?
It's Delashne.
Delashne.
Gina Delashne.
And she has really been a force behind this entire event, and I'm indebted in such gratitude to you, and is a teacher in the Lineage Project. Want to speak about that?
Yeah, so the reason that I came into all of this, one is to hopefully alleviate the suffering of everyone on the planet. That's my main goal. But I'm a teacher with the Lineage Project, and we bring mindfulness-based exercises to at-risk or incarcerated youth. Those are my students. And it's profound working with them. And everything that we do here, I do with them, and they take that out onto the street. And so, because we are all connected, it's infinitely important. So thank you. Thank you for being here.
And my name is Jamie Zimmerman, and the next amazing speaker we have is, or not speaker, she can speak, but she's gonna facilitate some mindful movements. But we have Ellie Aaron, who's here to guide us through some mindful movement at this late hour of the afternoon when it can be helpful to move a little bit.
Totally. Thank you. So just a little bit of movement. I'm Ellie Aaron, and I'm a yoga teacher in New York City. It's a pleasure to have you all here. Thank you for coming. And thank you to, Jamie's my roommate, by the way. So, and one of my bestest friends. So, and like I see how powerful she is, and she has an idea, and she's like, I'm just gonna make this happen. And clearly she did. So thank you, Jamie. So just a little bit of movement. I grew up in Israel, so I can relate to what's going on a personal level. I told my parents that they should come today. They were a little resistant, so they're not here. But what I do know and what I found out through my movement practice, through my meditation practice, is that again I'm the only one who has control of myself and how I feel. And by moving, by connecting with my own peace, my own breath, my own body, I can change the way I feel, and then I affect people around me. So when I speak to certain people who don't have the same beliefs as I do, I don't have to react with anger. I can react with compassion, and I can react from love. So that is what I try to cultivate in my movement practice and grow through yoga and through movement. Is how do we actually feel all these experiences? How does love, how does compassion feel in my body and feel in your body? So we're just going to move a little bit. So take a nice little seat. If you're sitting on a chair, just make sure that you're sitting in front of your chair. And bring your feet flat on the floor. Feet flat on the floor. Sit up nice and tall, everybody. Nice and tall. Beautiful. So let's try to see how, yeah, you can sit here. Please. Oh, you can sit. Please. So how does love feel in the body? So let's take one hand on our heart. One hand on our belly. And start to bring some warmth. So it's nice and tall. Bring your shoulders back. Start to bring some warmth to your hands. To bring some softness. Ahimsa, which is the concept of non-violence, non-harm in yoga. So the way we can enter this is through softness, through gentleness. So you can close your eyes. Start to just feel the breath moving in and out of your chest and your belly. You can inhale through the nose, full breath in. Exhale, full breath out. How does peace feel? How does love feel? Soften the face, soften the jaw, soften the eyebrows and the cheeks. Take another full inhale, soft, deep inhale. And exhale. Open your eyes, bring your hands to your side. Open your palms forward. From here, let's inhale, circle our arms up. Nice. And reach the arms nice and tall. Feel your sits bones reaching down. Feel your power here. Right? Peace and power. I would argue and say that being peaceful is the most powerful thing you can do, right? Being loved is the most powerful thing you can do. Really allow the hands to reach up, full breath in. And exhale. Release the arms to the sides. Nice. Just twice more like that. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, arms down. And one more time. Inhale, nice yawn, release. And exhale, twist to the right. Opposite hand to opposite knee. And then twist your belly here towards the side. Keep your hips forward. Twist your belly. Take a full inhale. Full exhale. Nice. And then inhale, arm center, full breath in. And exhale, twist to the left. Full breath in. Sit up nice and tall. Exhale, twist a little bit more. And one more time. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, twist. Soft breath. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, twist. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, side bend to the right. Bring your right arm down to the ground. And left arm over. Full breath in. Exhale. Nice. And inhale, center. Exhale, side bend left. Full breath in. Exhale. Beautiful. Inhale, arms up. If you're sitting down, change the cross of your feet. If you're sitting on the floor, if you're not, no problem. Sit up nice and tall, full breath in. And exhale, release your chest forward first, and then round your back forward. See if you can really release yourself forward here, and then allow your arms to release down as well. Forehead, chest, releases. Inhale, keep releasing your forehead down. Exhale. One more breath. Really release that forehead for one more moment. Nice. And exhale, slowly round. Hands in front of your heart. Please remember to use the body as the mechanism, right? Use the feeling of the body of how can we create more love, and then letting all those kinks go so we can recycle that dead energy out. Okay? So thank you so much. Thank you very much.
And next, I'm honored to present, take the microphone. He's also willing to plug in, yes. Okay, the wonderful spiritual mentor, love pioneer, Jennifer Cass, who's here to share her beautiful presence and a bit more on love before we transition into some other activities. Thank you so much. I'm honored to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor. And Jamie is an amazing new friend of mine. I'm so happy to have met you recently. And I'm so grateful for all of you here and all of the amazing speakers and the meditations and all of the thought and love that's been put into this day. And I'm so grateful for Marianne Williamson being here. She's been a huge light in my life, and she's awakened millions of people. So I'm so grateful for her on the planet as well, for Jamie bringing her here. So today we're talking about peace and unity. So to create a peaceful planet, we create peaceful relationships with each other. And the way we create peaceful relationships with each other is to create a peaceful relationship with ourselves. And so thus begins the journey inward. And so everything that I'm saying today, probably most of what I'm saying today, is an idea that's already been shared. Either it's been something you've thought about on your own spiritual journey, or it's been something that we've talked about today. So as Marianne said, when we share an idea, we grow that idea. I love that I get to speak in a space where we have this common understanding and a value for the higher levels of consciousness and understanding of who we are and what our purpose is on the planet. So I'm going to share a little bit about my story because I speak from personal experience, and when I'm sharing the spiritual perspective, I share what I've learned through my personal journey. Otherwise, it wouldn't be relevant to me. So it was about 3 years ago that I hit my rock bottom in a relationship and in a breakup. And my biggest challenge was in my relationships. So I had a really hard time getting along. And I have always been really sensitive to the injustices on the planet and things that I felt needed to change. But I was living in fear, and I was living in my ego, and I wasn't aware of what I was thinking, and I wasn't aware of my fear. And I didn't have any level of awareness around my limiting patterns. So for me, it was codependent patterns, and a lot of that manifested in my romantic relationships. And so when I hit that bottom, I realized that I had to try a new way, and that my way wasn't no longer working. And I became willing to step onto my spiritual path. So I grew up with Buddhist parents, and I had meditation available to me. I went through Shambhala training, level 1 when I was 13, and I went on for another 20 years, 27 years, saying that meditation was for crazy people. Which of course I was a crazy person, in denial. So what happened was, I think the impetus to begin was to get the relationship that I wanted. So my ego got hooked into it, but my higher self quickly took over, and I stumbled upon myself along my way, along the journey inward. And I found peace within. I found my happiness within, and I realized that my mission was way bigger than getting the relationship I wanted, and it was even bigger than being happy. I realized that if we're not happy or peaceful, and when we're not in that space of love, then we're actually not contributing to the planet. We are contributing, actually. We're contributing more fear and violence and suffering. So one of the first things I put to practice was in my relationship. So I took the spiritual teachings and I began to apply them to my daily life, really moment to moment, because it was a moment to moment practice, witnessing my thoughts, which most of the time when I first began were based in fear. They were limiting thoughts that didn't make me feel good. And so one of the first things that I put into practice was the idea that I could be right or I could be happy. And since I love to fight, it was really relevant for me because I always wanted to be right and I was never happy. So I began this moment-to-moment practice realizing that when I felt triggered and when I felt angry, and so again, it's that fight or flight that Emily spoke of, our brain, when we're in that space of fear, when we're in the unconscious patterns of the ego and the lower frequencies that we live on this planet, before we hit those higher levels of consciousness, before we've connected to ourselves in that real way, we are operating in that fight or flight mode. So for me, it was fight. And for a lot of people, it's flight. So they withdraw, or they're more passive, or they isolate themselves. And for me, I would sort of lash out. And so it was really amazing to begin to witness when I became willing to see things differently, and I became willing to see the loving perception in that moment. I could feel my energy shift, and then I would lash out sometimes, but sometimes I wouldn't. And eventually it integrated into every area of my life, and that the inner transformation was the catalyst for transforming all of my relationships. So the world is a mirror of who we are, and until we not find peace within, but really clear the blocks to the peace within. So I had to really look at my patterns, and I had to look at my fears and my thoughts and my choices, and begin to do things differently. And so we clear the blocks to the love within. And when we do this, we discover that we are love, and we have a limitless source of energy within. And I love telling, like Emily said about meditation is like caffeine, I love telling my clients that we don't have to reach outside of ourselves for energy. That's the oddest thing ever, because we have an unlimited source of energy within us, and that energy is love energy, and it's the energy that creates universes. And so we are that. And I love the idea that we're talking about, that we can't solve a problem on the same level of consciousness in which it was created. Because when we connect with that love energy within us, and we know who we are, we know our worth. And we move out into the world in a completely different way. And so when Marianne said earlier today that it doesn't matter so much what the action is that we're taking, as much as the energy from which we're taking that action. And so when we begin taking aligned action, which means action that's coming from a place of love and not fear. So before, I wanted to change the world, and everything was wrong, and I was angry, so I was basically useless, and I was powerless. So Martin Luther King said, darkness doesn't drive out darkness, only light can do that. So we have to be the light. And so we all know what we have to do. But I love bringing things into really applicable terms so we can
You're good. I'm just giving you a time. So.
Okay. How many minutes?
The next minute or so, so I just.
Okay, got it. All right, so I think the biggest message is that when we connect to our true self, we connect to that loving space within, and the people who come into our lives are our biggest assignments. And so we begin to witness how we're showing up in those relationships, whether it's someone who we bump into on the street, or it's a relationship of 2 years or a lifetime. And the more we begin to create those shifts, moving from maybe our fearful patterns of reaction and into more of our divine qualities like compassion and forgiveness and love, they're our teachers, they're our biggest teachers, so we get to put that into practice. And then when we can start forgiving on that micro level, then we can actually start forgiving on the macro level and look at the global issues and look at the groups on this planet, or the people on the planet, world leaders, people who we don't even know, and we can actually forgive them. Because only holding onto grievances and a lack of forgiveness, the anger and resentment only goes into us. And as we all know, we're all connected and we're all one. And I'm definitely preaching to the choir here. So, but thank you for being open to this message and for having me here. And
Thank you so much, that was amazing. And now I'd love to transition into, we're running behind schedule. We had to condense the program in order to accommodate the studio who was so generously donated to us. But we have a wonderful, I'm honored and so pleased to introduce you to a speaker that was on our agenda, even though I didn't know her name. I had written about wanting someone who taught nonviolent communication and who's really an expert in this area and worked in this region. I thought would be amazing. And then I got this message on Facebook that it was from Erica, who is Roberta Wall's daughter, who said, "You need to talk to my mom." And she sent me her website. And I looked at this website, and it was literally, she was the person who was meant to speak on this topic at this event. So it's a pleasure to introduce you. And she's going to speak a bit about your work in the Mideast, as well as potentially giving some principles on nonviolent communication.
about nonviolent communication, the movement we're building in the Middle East, and our own journeys. And let's see. It's not that difficult actually, because truly 80% of what I would have liked to have said has been said by this just amazing group of speakers, connecting inner work to our work in the world. This is not something that most people in the world will spend 4 hours an afternoon in August getting a taste of from different meditation teachers and activists and thinkers. And that is also the fundamental principle, I would say, underlying nonviolent communication, which is that it starts from inside. It starts from understanding your relationship to yourself and healing your relationship to yourself, so that you actually have an experience of healing. And, maybe not all the time. My theory is when the Buddha woke up and said, all of us are enlightened, I don't think he meant all the time. But we have had that experience, all of us. Whether it's walking in the park or seeing something, the light shining in some way. We've all had those moments, and the same thing, we've all had moments of feeling whole and healed. So nonviolent communication really builds on those moments and tries to bring it into our relationships with each other and into the way we organize ourselves. So something that we haven't talked about, so all that's to say, nonviolent communication really is part of all three of aspects of this agenda. I don't know if everyone can see the agenda. Peace within, peace between individuals, and peace in the Middle East. So I think we've been hearing nonviolent communication all day, and I'm really grateful, very grateful for that. So I wanted to just kind of start bridging what we could do with each other and in the greater world, as Jennifer just brought us through also quickly. So let's just start for a moment. I want to ask you, as you're sitting here and you think about particularly the Middle East, only because that's the topic of today, what are some of the ways of thinking and some of the beliefs and some of the concepts and images that you find within yourself that are obstacles to feeling compassion to the extent you would like to? Because another thing I'd love to hear the voices of people here. So just take a moment, and when you have a crystallized idea in your mind of, when I think this way, it makes it hard for me to have compassion toward, and share that with us. And let's just get an idea of what is really blocking our compassion. Yes?
If someone wants to kill...
Can you hear, or should I move the microphone around here?
You can hear.
Okay.
I can speak up. If someone wants to kill, like, a whole race that I potentially was born into, I don't necessarily identify with, how can I be compassionate towards that community?
So when you have the idea of someone or an organization that this is an individual or a group that wants to kill me, it's hard for me to feel compassion. Okay. Yeah?
I'm embarrassed to say this because I get even as a meditation teacher, which is what I do, I get competitive about it. Like, I want to be the best, and I want to be the first, and I want to be I get competitive about it, and it seems so silly and hilarious, but it feels separate. Like people are doing the exact same important work that in my mind I know I am excited to further, but I get jealous about it, and it feels separate, and I don't have as much compassion as I want to.
Okay. And you're not specifically talking about the Middle East, you're talking about in your life.
I think you were hearing what you said, like an issue that I find it hard to have compassion about. So I guess it would be jealousy. So I guess in the Middle East it would be like jealousy over someone having something that you don't, land that you don't.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So when you have an idea that someone has something that you want, it can really block your compassion. Okay, great, thank you. Yeah.
That I think like that one side may be right and one side may be wrong, and if maybe there's so much that I don't understand, so maybe I'm being naive, so it's hard to like that self-doubt without really the truth of compassion for all, I guess.
So really, 2 or 3 patterns of thinking that she identified. One is thinking there's right and wrong. And as I think we started the day off with the invitation to enter into Rumi's battlefield, or Rumi's above the battlefield. I love that. Oh, that was from you. That was wonderful. From Marianne. That this thinking that there's someone is right and someone is wrong. And that is, of course, one of the major blocks to compassion. And then what comes, I heard immediately after that, maybe because you have some awareness of the complexity of things, is self-doubt. When I'm doubting myself, and this is so related to the whole jealousy thing, when I don't have confidence and acceptance for myself, it blocks my compassion for others. This is such an important lesson for all of us, and for any of us who are working with children. You know, if we ever have thoughts about, you know, not wanting to make a child think they're too wonderful, think about what we just discovered here. That the more confidence and wonderful you think you are, the greater your capacity for compassion. Thank you. Yeah.
I have a very strong belief, and I also think observation, that there are leaders on both the Palestinian and the Israeli side that are deliberately manipulating emotions on both sides in very
Dangerous.
that they know what they're doing.
Intentional.
They know what they're doing, even though they don't, I don't think that either one of them truly see the unintended consequences, but they're deliberately playing up the fears of people.
So I love the whole way Karen put this, because she's saying she holds this belief and knows it blocks her compassion. Did you say that?
No.
We are very old friends.
I mean, I do know that it blocks my compassion. When I said observation, I'm talking about observing the behavior of the leaders.
So I'm putting this in the context of the exercise, that when we really believe that our judgments are true, and I'm not saying it's not true. All I'm saying is that when I believe my judgments are true, it blocks me from compassion. And so one of the highest skills that neuroscientists, I think, are helping us work on, therapists and meditation teachers, is how can I recognize it's my judgment, and it might be true, and it's blocking my compassion. How can we really break down that duality, right? So we take the judgment. So what nonviolent communication, the process, and I want to do a little bit of the process now, is to help us understand that I can recognize that my judgment blocks compassion. And it doesn't mean I have to give up anything that's important to me. And I want to say that I came to nonviolent communication also from a Buddhist practice, and there's many people in this room from my Buddhist Sangha. And I had a feeling for many years that there was a greater authenticity or acceptance of myself as a separate being that I wanted, even knowing that there's this whole other reality that I'm yearning to be in, of oneness. I want to be able to say, well, wait a minute, there's something really important in this belief that we have, that there are leaders in the world deliberately preying on our fear. Okay? So what I'd like to do is to show you how we would work with this in nonviolent communication. So I think it comes out of everything we've been doing today, and I think it adds something that helps us, I don't know, it's helped me have more clarity and direction in the world, I would say. So when I'm telling myself, so the first step, which this is a room full of people who can do this, it's so fantastic, is to recognize when you have a judgment, to recognize when you are being blocked, okay? And we've had, starting with, I like to start just where you started. What's going on in my body, and start learning, you know, when my body's constricted and tight, it's generally a sign that there's some emotional block. And also, so I also use Hebrew chant, and Buddhist chant, because as everyone has said, we have all of these doors that help us understand when we are blocked. So those of us in this room have such an abundance of this, and I really would like all of you to come to the Middle East this year. I'm doing a commercial interruption. We have 3 opportunities for you to come. We have 2 9-day trainings, and also a number of us are starting a Women's Empowerment Institute that's going to meet in Jordan, because women from all over the Middle East can come to Jordan, and I'm praying that it will be safe for Israeli women to come in March. So you're needed. We here in this country are so needed in other parts of the world, and I'm so scared that people would think I was like this arrogant American telling them all this. People are just, thank you for coming. Let us see what else is out there in the world. So that's the end of my commercial interruption, but I have flyers with my email, or maybe we can get the emails. But really, think about coming. Okay, back to the show. Okay, so what we want to do is first recognize whether it's from what's going on in our bodies, what's going on with our feelings. Just recognize when we are triggered into the narrow place. That's essential, and we've spent the whole day just experiencing so many ways of doing that. So once we recognize that, we want to say, well, what thinking in me is causing this constriction? We call this in nonviolent communication taking 100% responsibility. I want to know, what am I thinking that's causing this constriction? It's not because of what they did or what they said. It's what I'm thinking about what they did. Now the flip that I love in nonviolent communication is every step of the way we're checking in. This isn't bad. This is just how human beings work. And not only is it not bad that I'm thinking this, I want to know, well, there's some value, there's something really precious to me that I'm thinking this way. You know, this is especially easy to see sometimes if it's a loved one, and all of a sudden you're thinking, I don't ever want to see that person again. Or if it's your child and you're thinking, you know, oh, ungrateful, whatever. You want. It's not loud for you to know my daughter.
She made you watch it.
Oh, Erica. Thank you for telling me.
She wrote back saying, it's okay, Mom.
So what we want to do is say, what is so important to me that when I have this fight or flight response and all these different responses that we've been learning about today, that when I have that sense of deficiency, I'm willing to think this way. So I want to make my thoughts my ally. I want to make my wounds my ally. I want to make everything my ally. Because everything that's a part of my experience contains information for me about what's really important to me. So is it okay if we work with what you shared, Karen?
Oh, please.
Okay.
I need to know all.
So what did you all hear is really important to Karen? Does everyone remember what Karen said? She said that there are leaders that are intentionally manipulating us and causing fear, and they're doing this on purpose, and they know that they're doing it. So what is it that is so painful for Karen? What is she yearning for? And also, this gets back to how we started today, which is we want to put things in the affirmative. This is also a basic principle of nonviolent communication. When I'm thinking these thoughts and doing these actions, what is it that I'm yearning for? What am I trying to reach for here? So anyone have a sense of what Karen is yearning for and reaching for? We'll start over there and go, yeah. And by the way, just so I can make this into a real nonviolent communication training, if you're willing, I'm going to invite you to, only with curiosity, say, Karen, is this what you're yearning for? Okay, that's a part of how we use nonviolent communication to really create connection with the other person. Curious and we ask, we check in, is this what's going on for you? So if you're willing, try it that way.
Karen, are you yearning for integrity? Are you yearning for transparency? In leaders? Oh, yes. Because I think we're lost if we don't get that.
Okay, so
Because they have so much power. There's so much power.
So now what you're going, a principle, this is called connecting with empathy. And Karen knows this, that's why I feel okay making this a little bit of a teaching thing, okay? We want to follow the energy. So now don't go back to what you heard before. Now make a guess about what you just heard. Yes?
So Karen, is it that you're feeling this disconnection because you think our leaders should know better and they have this power that they're misusing it, and that is somehow irresponsible or terrible for a world that has little time? Is this what you mean?
Well, I think partly yes. I think we feel that there is that level of deliberate exploitation. And I truly believe that if they really got the unintended consequences, and I think this actually even more so about the environment, if they truly got the unintended consequences for the people that they love, that they would not be doing what they're doing.
Okay, so who just noticed an incredible shift? So this is the power of empathy, which also we've heard a lot about today. So just keep going. So it's really important when this is called creating connection through empathy. So you follow the last thing that you heard. You don't go back because we want to just be present. One of my main teachers in nonviolent communication is Robert Gonzalez, and he calls empathy presence without pressure. And I love that because it calls on me to just keep noticing, do I have this pressure inside, like pressure to fix, correct, educate, that's usually the pressure. And let go of that, just follow presence. So anyone have something that we just heard Karen say is really important to her? Yeah?
So, is this correct, Karen? I'm hearing that it's really important to you, for leaders to understand the unintended consequences of their actions, and then that might help facilitate a different choice on their part.
I believe with every fiber of my being that if people in positions of enormous power, I'm not minimizing the power of grassroots at all, but people that have their fingers on the trigger, access to huge wealth, all kinds of other things like that, really saw the unintended consequences, and they don't even have to love everybody. I think it just starts with who they care about, then they would act entirely.
Yeah?
So Karen, do you feel what you're saying is that people and leaders would make a heart connection, they would not to see the human reality of what's happening?
I've thought about this a lot, and I've also been very influenced by Nikki Cashman, who's an incredible human being and nonviolent communication leader. And she said, don't expect people to be able to love everybody. Very few people can do that. Try to find what matters to them. And I truly believe that unless someone has severe brain damage that makes them just not able to connect with other human beings, that they have a grandchild, that if they realize that their actions, there's no place to go. They can't go to another planet. I don't care what their plan is. I'm serious. And their wealth will not protect them. If you can't breathe the air and you can't drink the water and we're running out of food and there's social upheaval 1,000 times worse than what we're looking at now, that if they saw that their grandchild could not be saved, that could create an opening for them to be thinking and acting differently.
Okay, so how many more people want to make a guess at this? Or just me? Okay, yeah.
Dear Karen, are you concerned that leaders' notion of ways that they are protecting themselves and their loved ones are so off from what really is going to truly protect them, that they're going to be acting out of that misguidedness, and that there's nothing you can do about it?
I believe in the possibility of miracles, and miracles meaning building critical mass, which this room represents, leading to shifts, amazing shifts. And there's so much suffering that's happening until the people that don't understand their power is service. And frankly, unless we love them or pray for them, I really don't understand that.
Jamie?
Hi.
This is not Jamie.
Oh, you're not Jamie?
No.
Okay, I'm the next speaker.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Hello.
Because I know they were waiting for me, so sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have a few
So-
more minutes and then we're gonna be
Yeah.
Skyping with Dr. Alovich.
Okay, so,
Thank you.
so I'm feeling so excited right now because what I saw was that just connecting and being present with Karen where she was, there was a complete flow and shift to concern for, well, what is important to them? And this is actually what we call the dance of nonviolent communication. That we start off in this place of separateness, of you know, we're triggered and we think, I'm not saying Karen is saying this, but basically we forget that other people are suffering, right? That's what triggers us into this state of separation, right? We think we are the only ones suffering, and we forget the other person is suffering also. And when we just stay with someone suffering, and hear and guess, get curious, what is it? What is it that's so precious to her? That the human heart naturally starts to, well, I'm sure if we find what's really important to them, and then speak to that, and then, you know, of course, they're going to want awareness in the end of what's really going to help their children. So this is the flow of nonviolent communication, and it's what we do in the Middle East. And I want to, I only have a few more minutes, so I just want to end with, at our trainings, we actually start, well, first of all, we do trainings with, separately with Palestinians, separately with Israelis, and separately with religious people, whoever wants their own training. Something we value in nonviolent communication is choice, and trusting that what the choices people are making for how they want to learn is what can really support their learning and their dreams. And then also, at least, well, now we've been doing it at least 3 times a year, bringing together Israelis and Palestinians and internationals. And this is what we do when we're together. And we start with your relationship to yourself, and then we work on your relationship within your own family and your own community. And then we move to changing the world and changing the power structure. And the last part of nonviolent communication that I'm not sure if we're going to get to today, but I was so excited about it, is in the last part. Nonviolent communication is a really powerful, effective way to actually plan new strategies and to actually start to change the power structures that we've been talking about. I am actually dreaming of a movement where we do more than pray and meditate, and I also pray and meditate all day. And I'm also really with Karen that there are, power is held in the world in certain places. And yes, on a macro level, it's held because we let it be held there. Yes.
And we actually have.
Oh, he's on the phone now.
No, he's not.
Oh, all right, so
Right,
anyway.
but so what I'm saying is
Yeah.
that you have more time. And if you
Oh, I have
want
more
to
time.
delve into this, which seems
Ah.
to be actually, I think, the perfect way to.
Oh,
to
okay.
walk through it.
Oh, okay. So how much more time?
Jim? I would say 5 to 10 more minutes. You
Oh, all right. Well, just because of the flow of the day, I'm wondering if people would like to try a kind of activist brainstorming process using nonviolent communication. Is that something, maybe like hold your hand if that's, you feel excited about that? Okay, not everyone. If we had more time, I really regret not checking if people didn't raise their hands, because I'd love to do that. However, is there anyone who would be in excruciating pain if we moved to that? Let's like start with that. Okay, that's something I learned. Vicki Cashtan, the NBC teacher Karen talked about.
figure out, okay, you know, what is it that I really need to know to move on to a decision. So that's actually the first kind of NVC tip of group decision making and moving ahead. You know, it's very rare that 100% of the people will raise their hands and say yes. So then you want to think about, well, what level of okayness would I like from the rest of the room? You know, is it, I want to know if anybody's going to be in excruciating pain. That's like an extremely low threshold of, okay, we're going to go ahead and do it. You know, and if we're creating, for example, a joint strategy between Israelis and Palestinians, I would want a much higher threshold because inclusion is a key value, right? So that's the second point of how to use nonviolent communication to support our activism. It's to keep in mind, so what are the main needs of this group, of this movement? What do we really need? So I've been teaching an activism class in East Jerusalem, and this group, it's all Palestinian teenagers. They need 100% agreement, because the most important thing to them is that everyone is included. So once we all realize, and it took some back and forth to realize that, you know, if there was one person in the room who wasn't on board with what we were talking about doing, everything just started falling apart, and you could feel it energetically. So we realized, okay, every time we're making a decision, we ask who is not in favor of this. And then we go right to whoever raises their hand, and we find out, so what's important to you about not doing this? And we address that, just like what we were just doing before. We want to go to whatever is coming up and find out what's important in there. So nothing, not only is nothing excluded, everything is really used to strengthen our collective and our decisions. I had the idea, I'm going to do here what I do in this activism class in East Jerusalem, okay? Here we are. What would you like the next steps of this group to be? Does anybody have an idea? Okay, 1, 2, who else wants to speak? That's another thing we do. We try and really find out, at least in the first round, how many people want to speak so that everybody can then be aware of time and all that. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Okay, so could you each share in less than a minute? Would that work? Okay.
I can share in a second. I think you hit the point of inclusion, so I'd love to see more inclusion in your group. I'm feeling a bit brown.
Okay. And so, thank you. Could you be more specific about what groups you would like included?
Well, I don't know the group well enough yet to tell you what groups, but I think we should definitely get more diversity.
Do you mean people of color?
Yes.
Do you mean gay people? Do
I
you
mean all the
Arabs? Do you mean
Arabs,
Nigerian?
minorities.
Okay, I'm coaching you.
Disability, the whole
Okay,
nine yards.
activists, you want every request you make, you want all the information in your request so that all somebody has to say is yes,
Yeah.
and you're going to get everything you want. That's empowerment. Okay, it's the fourth step. People probably have seen here, there's like a template of nonviolent communication. It's the fourth step, which Marshall Rosenberg, the founder of nonviolent communication, he calls it, how do we make life more wonderful, right? How do we do it? It's by learning how to make a request or a proposal that has all the information in it so that if they say yes, you know you've got, so try it again.
What I would like to see with this group is a more realistic representation of the people involved in the conflicts that we're trying to non-violently address. So it's important to have people of different economic classes, different physical ability, religion, color, and also different experiences with violence so that we have a more accurate perception of how to proceed.
Wow.
Oh.
Okay, great. And did you notice her body language? Everything was just like right there.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we were doing this, we would have a board and we would write up there everything that's important to her. And if we had more time, we would read, which we don't always have as activists anyway, so this is actually pretty realistic, right? We might reflect back to people who wants to say what they heard the plan and who wants to work on it and who wants to set up a subcommittee. Okay, so that's just some of the things. And she could even make part of her proposal. I would like us to set up a subcommittee. I would like 3 people. I would like 1 man, 1 woman, 1 person old, 1 young, 1 high socioeconomic. I mean, you know, the more specific you get, the more it's going to happen. So, okay, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wait. Let me do the first 3 first. Okay.
Yeah, I really like her idea of inclusion, and then people from who have a Palestinian background, you know. But what I was going to say was, suggest is that we meet in small groups, which might be some of what she was suggesting, and then come back again in a larger group like this. But in the meantime, work together in small groups.
Do you mean right now?
No, not now,
Okay.
but in between the next larger meeting.
So also, you're proposing that whoever is interested in continuing or building something from this gathering have a series of small group meetings together and then another larger meeting. Okay. Okay, let's just keep going around. So, actually, I would suggest, is there somebody here who wants to act as the scribe right now and then give the notes to Jamie, who will have the emails, and see what happens?
I can be a scribe.
Okay, my name is Jamie. Okay, Hector?
For me, it was, I was just playing in the exercise, but since we're doing it for real, I would love to see our capacity to take at least one personal daily action that we can individually do to influence ourselves and the people around us, to maintain the state of mind, the language, and the activity we do with others to bring peace in our world, as well as whatever we can do for the rest of the world. So for me, it's what is it that I can take away while I'm dealing with my boss and my partner and my cooking and my toilet and like all my personal time that I've got. Is there something I can do there from what I've learned from everybody here? And if everyone took something, that's what I would like to see.
Okay. And would you like some connection with other people?
Just acknowledgement.
around
That's a
us?
great question. Yeah, it was acknowledgement before we left. That we looked at each other and we said, I learned something from you. I'm going to take that and I'm going to use it. I learned something from you. I'm going to take that and use it.
Okay.
Until we meet again or until we have a larger group. I know that in the back of my mind, I've got at least 50, 100 people doing something for peace.
Anyone else have any vision, suggestion, something you want to float for continuing this group? Jamie?
Yeah, I want to say I echo everything that was said, so thank you so much. And I definitely would love to, with those things in mind, whoever's interested, invite all of you and invite a larger, more inclusive group to be part of a larger follow-up event in the future. And so if you're interested, we'll send out an email. Let me know if you're interested in helping plan it and helping invite people. We tried to get the word out in a very short amount of time for this, but we want to plan ahead and have more time to really invite everyone properly and get the right partners involved. So that's my thing. That's like 3 months down the road or 6 months down the road with proper planning. But I want to thank everyone too.
So far we have 4 very different ideas, and none of them are in contradiction to each other, right? One is focusing on creating a more diverse representative gathering. Another is starting in small groups. Another is individual sustaining of the consciousness. And another
to come forward if you're interested in creating a larger event. And so I just want to point out, can everyone see that these all would support each other? Right? So that's something that is so important to see, that whatever any one of these suggestions, anyone putting their energy into any one of these four is going to really nurture all the other four. Okay. Anybody else? Yeah?
I would like to
Wait, I'm sorry. What's that?
I'm so sorry. So, if you could wrap in the next minute, because we have a presenter who's going to be here for
I'm
us.
so sorry, I have that kind of schedule. It's just not conducive to relaxation, and I apologize for that.
You missed all the minutes.
All right, so
Hi, I'm Hannah. Thank you for opening up this platform. And I came here today because I wanted to feel more engaged in being part of a bigger solution towards peace, in addition to my daily prayer meditation, which is something that I work on constantly, not doing it over every day, but that's something that's important to me. And with that, to know when I gather with the, what is the clear goal for that gathering?
So, are you making a request to this group?
Well, for the group, whatever, what is the goal for each meeting? In other words,
Each of the four different proposals?
each time the group, individual, small group, or big group, or whatever we want to create with each other here today, with amazing people. For me, I know my goal is to meet other like-minded people in my city, in my community, and get exposed to the actions I can take on my own. However, if I want to bring what I want of this group is to know what is the goal of the group.
So this is so key to everything we're talking about, that, and her question is going to support the four people who have in mind particular sort of task things. What's my main goal? Is it to create connection? Is it to be seen by the leaders? Yeah, exactly. Okay, and last person, Dave, do we have time for the last person or no?
Okay, yes. I'm gonna yes.
Being a practical person, seeing very, very troubled and oppressed people in Gaza, how can we non-governmentally reach out people to people? The tragedy that's happening, whatever our beliefs or our viewpoints, the almost complete destruction of an area, people and their structure of earning a living, being able to survive.
So you'd like to do something, what's quote unquote called humanitarian in terms of the suffering situation. Right.
Perhaps tangible, but that's being done more likely with the UN, etc. But more of an emotional way of reaching out, letters, phone calls, making a connection. There are people in the United States, Israel, etc., that really hear the suffering.
Okay, so thank you. So my suggestion, if Jamie is willing, that you send an email to all of us saying these are the 5 or 6 different ideas that came out. Who wants to step forward to coordinate, or at least step forward to do something in relation to this particular idea, and see what happens from that. That's one suggested way of going forward.
I was happy to do that.
Thank you. All right, so thank you everyone, and I brought a few pamphlets about nonviolent communication to sell. I just have very few. And I am giving a workshop in New York City sometime in September. I'm not sure when, but
could do a whole day workshop on that. So yeah, thank you so much, Roberta. You're definitely meant to be here today. And I'm so excited to introduce our next speaker, Maysoon Zayid. You may have seen her TED Talk, which is how I fell in love with her first. and I'm also on our Twitter feed, so I get to hear Palestinian American, and I'm getting to hear updates about what's happening from your perspective and just sharing, and events are moved. So I'm really honored to have you here today. And if you'd like to see this.
I'm a yogi, so I'm going to sit on the ground. And I'm not going to use a mic because I'm Arab and I'm loud. So that makes me even louder. Make sure the camera doesn't get underwater.
Yeah, I was trying.
So hi everybody, my name is Maysoon Zayid, and I'm really excited that Jamie invited me to be here today. And I really want to thank her because I literally had like 45 minutes, and I was like, I want to come, Jamie, but I only have these 45 minutes. And like I said, it's not really conducive to this relaxing atmosphere to be like, go, go, go. So thank you, Jamie. So I'm a comedian, but I'm not here to talk comedy. I'm sure you'll giggle a little because I can't resist a joke or two. But what I want to do is split my time in half, and I want to talk for 10 minutes. And then I want to open it to question and answer. I don't know because Palestinians don't all look alike, so I don't know. There might be some Palestinians in the room. It's totally possible. But if not, you have a real live one. And you can ask me absolutely anything. You cannot offend me. I'm a comedian. We are offensive. We don't get offended. And so I begin. So I was born in the great state of New Jersey. I spent my school days in New Jersey and my summers in Palestine because my dad was afraid that if we didn't go back every single year, we'd grow up to be Britney Spears. So I've witnessed 30 years of two very same but different worlds. And I'm going to start at the point of peace. And it was something that Jamie said to me, make sure that you focus on peace. And I was like, oh, I want to focus on, being barbaric. I think that the entire conflict has been made into something complicated, and it's not. So I grew up in New Jersey, and I grew up secular, right? Because we live in a country where you're not supposed to combine religion and government. And we're on a slippery slope in America where a lot of politicians have started combining religion and government. And whenever I see that happening, I think, okay, we're a country that preaches one thing and we do another. So we take it to Palestine and Israel. What is happening there? Why are these people really in a conflict? Is this really a 2,000-year-old conflict where it's the Hatfields and the McCoys and they're just killing each other? No. That's not the reality. So today I want to talk about what the reality is. The reality is that right now there's about 5.5 million Palestinians and 7 million Israelis living in the exact same place. There's no two states. Gaza's not a separate country. The West Bank isn't really Palestine. Israel actually has no borders. So like when I write for the Daily Beast sometimes. And when I'm trying to write about places, I'm like, none of these places have borders. How am I supposed to refer to something as Israel or Palestine when these two places coexist? So what's going on? Millions of people in Palestine and Israel coexist. Do you guys know that? Millions. So first we look at the 1.5 million Palestinians with Israeli citizenship. They're living in places like Tel Aviv and Jaffa, and they work with Israelis. They have sex with Israelis, they study with Israelis. Millions of people live together, and millions of people are not getting hurt or injured. But those 1.5 million Palestinians are second-class citizens. We hear over and over, democracy, a light unto nations. But the reality is, when a government tries to give a superior status to one group out of fear that if that group is not superior, they will be killed, it's dangerous. Because in order to have one group have a superior status, all other groups must be inferior. There is no way to create equality when one group is special. So what's the solution? My solution is a one-state solution. This is a solution that terrifies many, many people because for some reason equality is extremely scary. I'm not sure why, but from what I've studied, the white people in the South were extremely terrified that if black people became their equals, that they would be subjected to violence, that their women would be raped, that the whole country would go to hell in a handbasket. There's fear among people, and that fear is valid, and I'm not saying that it's not valid. What I'm saying is violence begets violence. So from my first realization of what was happening in Palestine and Israel, I would always say to people, I don't understand, why can't we just have equal rights for all faiths? Why can't it actually be a beacon unto nations? Where unlike America, where we're still struggling to integrate people of color into the community, you actually do have a place that's a safe haven for Jews worldwide. Safe haven where they get to go back, but there's equal rights. There's no Jewish-only settlements and Jewish-only roads. Separating yourself from people does not create peace. It creates tension. And I think, can you remind me your name? Roberta made such an amazing point. And the point that Roberta made was, we can't force people to learn the way we want them to. A lot of Palestinians don't feel comfortable being in a room where there's a false equivalence between Israeli and Palestinian power in this conflict. And a lot of people say, how are you going to have a conversation if you don't have dialogue? But what Roberta said is so important. Some people are not ready for that dialogue. I often have people coming to me and saying, there are two sides. And there are two sides. And this is a very upsetting thing, I know for many, what I'm about to say. But right now, the two sides are the oppressed and the oppressor. They are not equal. My entire life, I have been subjected to violence. An American citizen, a disabled woman that goes back from New Jersey to Israel. As soon as I land in the airport, I am no longer American. I am treated as a Palestinian. When I board a flight leaving Israel, I'm only allowed to carry a cell phone and one credit card. I can't have a pillow, I can't have food, I can't have an iPad. I harass the person next to me with the iPad. I'm like, wow, you have an iPad, that must be fun. I'm not allowed to have it. You know, I have to cross checkpoints. Checkpoints are dehumanizing. So I'm trying to pack a lot of information into 10 minutes, but it's going to work because I'm going to quickly work backwards. Before the 2000 Intifada started, Palestinians were working in Jerusalem, Palestinians were able to go to the beach, and there was no wall. And there were checkpoints, but not at the level that they are now. After 2000, they built this wall. What's the wall for? Anyone know?
Prevent suicide bombing.
Supposedly. So supposedly this wall was built to prevent violence against Israel. But the reality is every single day, thousands of Palestinians cross this wall illegally to work in Israel. That can't possibly be a security situation. So here we are. It's okay if we're your labor force, but it's not okay for us to get a building permit in Jerusalem to add a room to a house that we've lived in for 8 generations. Here we are. It's okay if we are, you know, the labor force in settlements, for example, like Soda Street, but it's not okay for us to use the same roads. It's okay that Israelis hitchhike on Palestinian roads every single day, and in all those years, we saw one random, despicable act of violence. Why every single day are there Israelis hitchhiking on Palestinian roads, and we don't care about killing every single day? What is creating the violence? What? The caging of an entire society. You have 5 million people who do not have equal rights. So when we hear it framed as Israel is acting in self-defense, for me that's like bizarro world, because I'm like, okay, You came into my house, you shoved me into the bathroom. I come out of the bathroom, I push you back, you shoot me in the face and say it's self-defense. How is that possible? And Palestinians are saying, for 30 years we've tried. And no one thinks we've tried. No one thinks we've tried. Everyone, we have this reputation where you have people like Joan Rivers going on TV, calling us animals, saying we should die. I have seen friends of mine who I have known since 5 years old saying, well, you know what, if some kids have to die for the greater good, then they have to die. We're a society that's gotten to that point. And when we look at Palestine, Israel, and we say, you guys need to stop the violence, we need to understand the violence that we as Americans are perpetrating throughout the entire world. Whether it's Yemen, Iraq, or the arming of the Israeli army. We have the ability to at any point force a ceasefire of both parties. Nobody likes that, but the reality is we have that ability. We have the ability to stop the violence. And what did we do? We rearmed Israel. So people say to me, how do you get all these people who are trying to kill each other to stop? And I say to you, are they really all trying to kill each other? Because if they really all were trying to kill each other, you'd have a lot more dead people. The reality is the majority is coexisting right now, with one group being denied water rights and the other group being given water rights. When we hear on TV that Palestinians and Israelis are negotiating, and every 3 months the Israelis announce 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 more settlements, what does that word mean to you? What that word means to Palestinians is we're losing more land, we're losing more freedom, we're being subjected to more violence. Now, is it okay that Hamas reacted to 30 years of violence by indiscriminately firing rockets at civilians? Absolutely not. I don't accept anyone attacking civilians at any time. I condemn any acts of violence against civilians. I don't think it was right what we did in Japan. I don't think the bombings that we do in Yemen are right. I don't think the shootings happening in Chicago or school shootings are right. I condemn it, blanket. But at the same time, if you were caged, if you could not get water to your child, would you not fight back? So it's really easy for me to be at the West Bank and say, let's 1 million of us walk to a checkpoint, and then realize that the entire first 3 rows are going to get shot and killed. That's what nonviolence has happened to it. When we try to have nonviolence, I know a lot of people have seen 5 broken cameras. We try the Gandhi technique and we get killed. We try the political technique and we get killed. We try the violent technique and we get massacred. Massacred with daily representations of dead Palestinian children in the New York Times, on television. Why do we put images of brown children who are dead in our media, but we do not put images of white children who are dead? When I wrote to the New York Times and I said, why is there a picture of a dead baby on the cover of the magazine? They said, we want people to feel. Well, when the Newtown shootings happened, we didn't need to see those babies blown to bits in order to feel. Why is it that the American media feels okay putting brown babies? Because we've been dehumanized. Because the Palestinian side is only thought of as how does it affect Israel. It's never thought of as how does it affect millions of people subjected to decades of violence. So I'm going to do a quick joke before I open the Q&A. And this joke I did in January of 2009. And I had been doing comedy for about 10 years. And I visit, like Roberta, I go back and forth between Palestine and America. I run a program for disabled, wounded refugee kids and orphans, which is totally fun. And I was really upset. I didn't want to go on stage because in 2009, there was a massacre. And it was called Cast Flag. And at the time that I had to go on stage, about 1,000 people had died. And as a comedian, I was just so angry. And I was like, how do I do this? And I went on stage, and this was my joke. I decided to get married when I was 33 years old because it was my Jesus year. I figured I either had to get crucified or married. It's quite similar, so I chose marriage. But I had a problem. I'm palsy. So I couldn't go on Match.com because typing's not my thing. And I thought about it, and I thought, where can a 33-year-old Palestinian Muslim virgin from New Jersey catch a husband? And then it occurred to me, you want to know where I went? I went to Gaza. Why? They got no place to run. And that was the joke that I did that night on stage. And my goal was to say, these people have no place to run. And we have become a society that is okay with children being killed for a greater good. That is okay with supporting a government, the United States. When people say, what can we do that's proactive? We live in America, and we live in a country that supports the Saudi government, which denies equality to women, which is a religious state, contrary to the ethics that we're taught in America. We have a president who is continuously demanding a Jewish state. You're a secular president asking for an ethno-theocracy, where others are not equal, where segregation is already appearing on the ground. So we have to acknowledge as a people that we participate in this violence, we fund this violence, and that our government supports things that we would never allow in our own country. So I just want to open, I know I gave you a lot of information. I feel Roberta now, because it's like, where do you begin with this thing? And I think the beginning, the middle, and the end is, I know it sounds unbelievable, but the key is equality. And if every single person in that area was given equal rights, was given the right to education, freedom of movement, access to water, the extremists lose all their power. Hamas, 3 months ago, was a nobody. They lost all support. They didn't bring the change that people wanted when they were elected, and they had so little power that they joined the unity government because they knew if there was an election, they would never win. Israel broke the ceasefire, whether anyone likes it or not, by killing a 7-year-old girl on June 11th. And when Hamas started to fight back, after Israel did the thing where you push your brother, and then he punches you in the face, and you go, ah, he punched me in the face. They fought back, and suddenly, their popularity rose. So someone who had absolutely no power was instigated, fought back, and now has power again. They don't have power when you have quality of life. They simply don't. When you talk to Palestinians, even Hamas, who I don't agree with because I don't believe in any religion and government, even they say this is not about hating Jews. Palestinians are not anti-Semitic. This is not about hating Jews. This is about the fact that the Israelis are oppressing the Palestinians. They do not have quality of life. They do not have freedom. And you can't deny others' lives in order to have your own personal security. You have to find a way to live together. Because otherwise you're not really secure. You're just living in fear. So I'd love questions before it's too late, because I don't want to keep the good doctor waiting, because he's just like such a cool guy. Questions?
What is the update?
So the update, so with Dr. Abouleish, he's been stuck in a traffic jam, and he has a lot of commitments related to an initiative he's doing right now to bring children who are wounded from Gaza to Canada for medical treatment. And I don't think he's going to be able to make the call today.
Oh.
So my apologies.
Can I quickly, before questions, tell them about proactive things, because that was one of my favorite questions here. If you're on social media, find a buddy from Gaza and check in on them daily. That's the biggest question I get from my request I get from my friends in Gaza. I have a lot of kids in Gaza that I've worked with, and I have journalists in Gaza that are my buddies, and they say, make sure you check tomorrow morning and see if I'm alive or dead. Make sure you're the one who tweets if I'm not. There's so many people dying, maybe no one will ever even know that I was killed. Please promise me that you'll be the one who checks on me, make sure I'm alive, and if I'm dead, make sure my name is known. Make sure they know I wasn't a terrorist. Make sure they know I wasn't in Human Shield. You know, I talk about Human Shields a lot. The only Human Shields I have ever seen in all my years of going back and forth are parents shielding their kids from death. You cannot call people Human Shields when they have absolutely nowhere to run. They have absolutely no way to change the people governing them. If you don't have freedom, you can't be proactive. So to blame these people for their children's death is really a deeply disturbing thing that I hear consistently from celebrities, from media, from government. You cannot blame the people who are being killed for their own death. You cannot say, people saying, why did Hamas hide this in a hospital? International law states that if someone's hiding weapons in a hospital, that hospital is still not a valid target. And we have a mindset where we think, well, it's okay, we can kill 438 children because there were guns.
We have about thank you so much. We have about 3 minutes before we have to actually leave this
Okay.
space.
Well,
I'm
I
gonna
love
open
the
it up to
question.
questions,
Yeah.
absolutely, and then we'll do
Maybe
it.
I would like just, because I need to fulfill my obligations,
Yes.
I would like to limit it to 3 questions, and then I'll end it in a final meditation for all of us.
Nice, okay. Roberta.
Thank you so much for bringing out your experience, your life, and what's going on. And I know that's really not easy. I actually started today on a phone call. One of the things we're doing in communication is we have empathy calls. And I had some with students from Gaza. Today I was on one with an Israeli Palestinian who calls himself Israeli Arab. And it wasn't until an hour into the call that he said, oh, I guess, and this is to me, this is something that we know each other really well. It wasn't until an hour into the call where he said, oh, maybe I'm talking to some Jewish people who it's okay for me to express my grief about Gaza and you're not going to hear I'm anti-Semitic. I said, yes, of course. So I really want to appreciate the bravery and the courage and encourage you to keep presenting exactly as you have, because I just really heard that you want all of humanity to thrive. So I just want to thank you for that, really. And I also want to add that I was going to read and well, maybe I'll send them an email. Letters I got from religious Jewish women saying just what you're saying. They don't want the world to think that they want kids to die. They are suffering and praying and crying every day. This is not, they want safety for Jewish people. This is not the cost for that they want. So it's just, I think what you're saying, people are mirroring each other and we have to figure out how to change the power.
And I think I don't know enough of those voices, and I'm out there and I'm a public figure, and Jamie knows I'm on Twitter 24/7. I shouldn't be, but I am. And I don't know those voices, and I always think that hate and extremists are so much better at organizing than peaceful, positive people. So that's something that I think we should put into this energy and say, how do we amplify this voice that I'm not hearing? How do we amplify that voice and drown out the extremist voice instead of acknowledging?
Yes.
Yes.
I just want to say thank you. Listening, I like hearing the whole spectrum. Sometimes hearing all that peaceful, and not the real truth of what people feel. I think takes away from